Stay away from him, sweetheart. That man is dangerous. Maybe he just needs someone who isn't afraid to listen. When a blind girl walked into the most notorious biker bar in town looking for her lost brother, the entire room went silent. The regulars backed away, whispering warnings. "Sweetheart, you shouldn't be here," the bartender said, his voice low and urgent. "Especially not when Reaper's around." But she didn't turn back. She tilted her head toward the sound of heavy boots in the corner and said softly, "Maybe he just needs someone who isn't afraid to listen." That's how Lily met Marcus Reaper Stone, the most feared biker leader in 3 counties. If you believe in the power of observation, in trusting your instincts, and in the courage it takes to speak up when something feels wrong, then pause for a moment. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to Bike Diaries. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from today, because this story will remind you that heroes come in all sizes, and sometimes the smallest voices carry the most important messages. Back to the story. Marcus Stone hadn't always been called Reaper. Once, he'd been just Marcus, a decorated Marine who'd served 3 tours overseas. But after an ambush that killed half his unit, including his younger brother who'd followed him into service, he came home a different man. He founded the Iron Wolves MC, a brotherhood that locals whispered about in hushed tones. Some said they were criminals, others said they were vigilantes. The truth was somewhere in between, and Marcus preferred it that way. It kept people at a distance, which was exactly where he wanted them. His reputation preceded him everywhere he went. 6'4", covered in scars and ink, with eyes that had seen too much death. He rarely spoke, and when he did, people listened or they left. Permanently. The Iron Wolves controlled the roads in and out of Millbrook, and nothing happened in their territory without Marcus knowing about it. His record with the police was a patchwork of arrests that never stuck, complaints that mysteriously disappeared, and a file so thick it required 2 folders. The bold red stamp on top read, "Extremely dangerous, approach with caution." Every day, Marcus sat in the same corner of the last stop, the bar his club owned, nursing whiskey and watching the door with dead eyes. Regular folks avoided the place entirely. Even the cops only entered in pairs, and never without backup waiting outside. Rumors said Marcus had killed a man with his bare hands for disrespecting a woman. Others said he'd burned down a drug house with the dealers still inside. No one knew what was true, but everyone knew not to cross him. Until that Tuesday afternoon, when the bell above the door chimed, and Lily Chen walked in, tapping her white cane against the worn floorboards. She wasn't supposed to be there. Her aunt had brought her to town to search for her brother, David, who'd gone missing 3 weeks ago. David had been investigating something, working on a story for his journalism degree. His last text to Lily had been cryptic. "Found something big, Iron Wolves. If anything happens..." And then nothing. Just silence. The police had been useless. "Your brother's an adult, ma'am. Probably just took off for a while." But Lily knew better. David never went silent. Not with her. So she'd come to Millbrook herself, following the only lead she had, a matchbook from the last stop found in David's apartment. When she entered the bar, conversations died mid-sentence. Pool balls stopped clicking. Even the jukebox seemed to lower its volume. Miss?" The bartender, a grizzled man named Pete, hurried toward her. "I don't think you want to be here." Lily turned her face toward his voice, her clouded eyes unseeing but somehow piercing. "I'm looking for someone. My brother, David Chen. He's 23, about 5'9", black hair. Someone here must have seen him." A ripple of uncomfortable silence spread through the room. Pete glanced nervously toward the corner where Marcus sat, completely still, watching. "Sweetheart, I haven't seen anyone by that description, but you really should. I'm not leaving until I get answers." Lily's voice was soft, but steel-lined. "Someone here knows something about my brother. I can feel it." That's when Marcus spoke, his voice like gravel scraping concrete. "Girl's got a death wish, walking in here blind and demanding things." The room grew colder. Lily turned toward the voice, her cane tapping as she moved forward. The crowd parted like water, leaving a clear path between her and the corner. "You're Marcus Stone," she said. It wasn't a question. "Reaper?" someone whispered nervously. "How'd you know?" Marcus asked, genuinely curious despite himself. "Your voice. It's exactly how my brother described it." "Sounds like he's been chewing gravel and smoking despair," she quoted, a sad smile on her face. David always had a way with words. Marcus stiffened. The bar went deathly quiet. "Your brother." Marcus set down his glass slowly. "The journalist kid who wouldn't take a hint." Lily's breath caught. "You know him. Where is he?" "Don't know. Don't care." But something in his tone was off, and Lily, who'd spent her whole life learning to read voices instead of faces, heard it immediately. "You're lying." She took another step forward, close enough now that she could hear his breathing. "You know exactly where he is, or what happened to him. I can hear it in your voice. You're angry, but not at me. You're angry at yourself." The bikers exchanged glances. No one called Reaper a liar. Not ever. Marcus stood, his chair scraping loudly. He towered over her, close enough that she could smell leather and motor oil and whiskey. The kind of proximity meant to intimidate. Lily didn't flinch. "Everyone says you're dangerous, that you hurt people. But I don't believe that's all you are. Then you're a fool." His voice was cold, dismissive. "Maybe." She tilted her head. "Or maybe you've just forgotten what it's like when someone sees past your reputation. David told me something in his last call. He said, 'These bikers, everyone's terrified of them. But I watched their leader give his jacket to a homeless vet in the rain. Didn't say a word, just walked away. There's more to this story, Lil.'" Marcus went completely still. That had been 3 weeks ago. A cold night. The old Marine had been sitting outside the convenience store, shaking. Marcus had been the only one who'd noticed the man's dog tags. He'd given him his jacket, $70, and the address of the VA clinic. He'd told no one. But the journalist kid had seen it, had been watching. "Your brother was too curious for his own good," Marcus said quietly. "Started asking questions about things that weren't his business." "What things?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment, warring with himself. No one in the bar dared breathe. Finally he spoke, his voice so low only Lily could hear. "Corrupt cops, evidence tampering, missing persons who nobody bothers to look for. Your brother found a connection between the police chief and 3 unsolved disappearances. Young kids from the reservation, mostly. Poor families. People nobody cared about." He paused. "Except us, and except your brother." Lily's hand trembled on her cane. "Where is he?" "Safe house, 2 towns over. We've been hiding him while we gather evidence. Kid wouldn't leave it alone, even when they threatened him. So we pulled him out before the cops could make him disappear like the others." Marcus let out a long breath. "He's been calling the number you text him from. You never answered." Tears spilled down Lily's cheeks. "My phone. Someone stole it 2 weeks ago. I thought—" Her voice broke. "I thought he'd abandoned me. That he didn't care anymore. That kid talks about you constantly. Drives my guys crazy. My sister this, my sister that. Pain in the ass, honestly." But there was warmth in Marcus's voice now, the ice cracking. "How'd you even find this place?" "The matchbook in his room. I had someone read it to me. Then I made my aunt drive me here." She smiled weakly. "She's waiting in the car, probably terrified." Marcus actually chuckled, a sound so rare that several bikers looked startled. "Smart woman? This isn't exactly a Sunday social club." "Can I see him?" Lily asked. "My brother?" Marcus studied her for a moment. This blind girl who'd walked into his bar like she owned it, who'd called him a liar to his face, who'd somehow seen through his armor with those unseeing eyes. "Pete, get the girl some water. She's shaking." Marcus pulled out his phone. "I'll make a call." As they waited, Lily sat at Marcus's table, something that would have been unthinkable an hour ago. The other bikers kept their distance, still processing what they'd witnessed. "Why do they call you Reaper?" Lily asked, quietly. "Because I collect debts from people who hurt others, and I don't negotiate." He paused. "Your brother's not the first person we've protected. Probably won't be the last. This town has rot in it, and the law's part of the problem." "So you're the law instead?" "We're what happens when the law fails." Marcus took a drink. "Don't make us heroes, kid. We've done things that would keep you up at night." "Everyone's done things they regret," Lily said softly. "David told me you lost your brother. I'm sorry." Marcus's hand tightened around his glass. "How'd he know that?" "He didn't, I guessed. I can hear it in your voice when you talk about protecting people. You couldn't save him, so you save everyone else." She reached out, her hand landing on his arm. "But you're so busy being dangerous that you've forgotten how to be anything else." For the first time in years, Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. This blind girl with her quiet voice and steady courage had walked into his world and somehow seen him more clearly than anyone with working eyes ever had. "Your brother's safe," he said finally. "I give you my word." "I believe you." "You shouldn't. You don't know me." "I know enough." Lily smiled. "I know you're not as dangerous as you want everyone to think. I know you care more than you pretend to, and I know you're tired of carrying all this anger alone." Marcus looked at this young woman who'd somehow managed to do what trained cops, rival gangs, and federal agents never could. She'd gotten him to talk. "Your brother's lucky to have you," he said quietly. "And those people you protect are lucky to have you," she replied, "even if you're too stubborn to admit you're helping them." An hour later, Marcus personally drove Lily and her aunt to the safe house. When David saw his sister, he ran to her, crushing her in a hug while tears streamed down his face. "I'm sorry, Lil. I'm so sorry. I tried to call." I know now." She held him tight. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, Reaper and his crew. They saved my life." Marcus stood in the doorway, uncomfortable with the gratitude in David's voice. "You did the hard part. Had the guts to dig when everyone else looked away. Now we finish it." And they did. 2 weeks later, with David's evidence and the testimony of 3 witnesses the Iron Wolves had been protecting, the police chief was arrested. 2 of his officers went down with him. The missing persons cases were finally investigated properly. But something else happened too. Something unexpected. Lily started coming to the last stop regularly. At first she came to see David, who was documenting the whole story. But then she kept coming even after David went back to school. She'd sit at the bar, chatting with Pete, asking the bikers about their lives, treating them like people instead of threats. And Marcus found himself looking forward to Tuesdays, when Lily would walk through that door, tapping her cane and calling out, "Reaper, are you brooding in your corner again?" "It's what I do best," he'd respond, but there'd be the ghost of a smile on his face. She started bringing books on tape and playing them in the bar on quiet afternoons. Stories about redemption, about second chances, about people who'd lost their way and found it again. The bikers pretended not to listen, but they did. Every word. One evening, Lily asked Marcus, "Why do you still act so tough? Everyone here knows you're more than that now." "Reputation keeps us safe. People afraid of us don't cause problems." "Or," Lily said gently, "maybe you're afraid that if you're not Reaper the dangerous biker, you'll have to be Marcus the man who lost his brother. And that hurts too much." Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then, "You see too much for someone who can't see." "I see what matters," she said. "I see you." 6 months after that first meeting, the Iron Wolves were still running their territory. But things were different. They started a program for homeless vets. They partnered with the reservation's youth center. They became known as the people you called when the police wouldn't help, when someone was in trouble and had nowhere else to turn. And Marcus, still Reaper to most, but Marcus to Lily, learned that being dangerous and being good weren't mutually exclusive. That sometimes the most fearsome protectors were the ones who'd lost the most. That you could be both the monster in the shadows and the man who gave his jacket to strangers in the rain. On Lily's birthday, Marcus showed up with something unusual, a German shepherd puppy. "What's this?" she asked, confused. "Guide dog in training. Called in a favor with a friend who runs a program. This little guy starts training in 2 months, but until then, he's yours to socialize, if you want him." Lily's hands found the puppy's soft fur, and tears rolled down her cheeks. "Marcus Stone, are you going soft on me?" "Don't tell anyone. Bad for the reputation." But he was smiling, really smiling for the first time in years. She named the puppy Scout. And every Tuesday, Marcus would pick them both up, and they'd walk through town together. The blind girl, her guide dog in training, and the dangerous biker who'd learned that sometimes being seen, really seen, was the most terrifying and healing thing that could happen. If this story has touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Bike Diaries. We bring you stories that prove heroism comes in all forms, that courage isn't measured by size or age, and that sometimes the smallest voices carry the most important messages. Tell us in the comments. Have you ever noticed something important that others missed? Your story might inspire someone else. One night, as they sat outside the last stop watching the sunset, or rather, Marcus watching while Lily listened to it, she asked him, "What changed, do you think? When I first walked in here, you could have thrown me out. Why didn't you?" Marcus thought about it. "You reminded me of him, my brother. He was smaller than me, always getting into fights he couldn't win, never backed down even when he should have. Stubborn as hell." He paused. "And you? You walked in here like you belonged, like you weren't afraid of dying. I respected that." "I was terrified," Lily admitted, "but sometimes the things that scare us most are the things we need to face." Wise words from someone so young. I learned from someone who was too busy being dangerous to realize he was already wise. She reached out, and Marcus took her hand, calloused and scarred as it was. "You're not a Reaper, Marcus. You're a shepherd. You just dress scary so the wolves think twice before attacking your flock." Marcus laughed, a real laugh that echoed through the parking lot and made the other bikers inside wonder what miracle had just occurred. "David's still pestering you for an exclusive interview?" Marcus asked. "Every week. I keep telling him you'll talk when you're ready." "Tell him he can have his interview, on one condition." "What's that?" "He stops calling me Reaper in print. Name's Marcus. Time people knew that." Lily squeezed his hand. "I think that's a good idea." As the sun set over Millbrook, casting long shadows across the parking lot, a blind girl and a dangerous biker sat together in comfortable silence. Two people who'd been lost in their own ways, who'd found each other in the most unlikely of circumstances, who'd learned that sometimes it takes someone who can't see your face to finally see your heart. Because sometimes you don't need eyes to recognize a good soul. You just need the courage to look past the armor, the reputation, and the fear to find the person underneath. And sometimes the most dangerous people aren't dangerous at all. They're just protecting something they love in the only way they know how. Thank you for watching. If this story reminded you to trust your instincts, to speak up when something feels wrong, and to never underestimate the power of paying attention, please share it. Subscribe to Bike Diaries for more stories that prove heroes are everywhere. Courage comes in all forms, and sometimes the smallest person in the room has the biggest impact. Tell us in the comments, what would you have done in Lily's place?